Imagine waking up one day with a jarring realization. Your life might not truly be your own. Every decision you've made, every belief you hold, and every aspiration you chase, are they truly yours? Or have they been subtly molded by external forces, society's expectations, cultural norms, your upbringing, and even the quiet, insidious whisper of unconscious fears? It's a thought that can send shivers down your spine. How much of what you consider you is genuinely authentic, and how much is merely a patchwork of borrowed ideas and inherited patterns? We often glide through life on autopilot, mistaking our conditioned responses for conscious choices, never pausing to question the deeper origins of our desires and motivations. Carl Jung, one of the most profound thinkers of the modern era, believed that life doesn't truly begin until we break free from these illusions and find ourselves. But what does it mean to find yourself? Is it merely about gaining self-awareness, understanding your habits and preferences, or is it something much deeper, a transformative journey that demands courage, vulnerability, and an unflinching look into the darker corners of your psyche? The truth is, most people will never ask these questions, let alone seek the answers. It's far easier, and often more comfortable, to remain within the confines of familiar narratives, playing roles assigned by the world around us. But for those who dare, the journey of individuation, the process of becoming one's true self, awaits. It is a path marked by uncertainty and challenge, but also by profound freedom and authenticity. Today, we're diving deep into Jung's insights, peeling back the layers of conditioning, and uncovering the path to living a life that is truly your own. If you've ever felt the quiet tug of something more, a sense that you've been living just a fraction of your potential, this journey might just hold the answers you've been seeking. From the moment we are born, the world around us begins to shape us. We are given names, assigned roles, and surrounded by expectations, long before we ever develop the ability to think independently. Like wet clay, we are molded by the hands of parents, teachers, peers, and the invisible yet powerful force of societal norms. Without realizing it, we begin to fit into a carefully constructed mold, often mistaking it for our true selves. This conditioning is not always loud or obvious. It often comes in quiet, seemingly harmless moments. A child who expresses emotions too freely might be told to toughen up or to stop being so sensitive. If they dream too big, they are gently reminded to be realistic or warned not to set themselves up for disappointment. These little corrections accumulate over time, like drops of water carving out a riverbed, subtly but profoundly altering the flow of a person's natural expression. As the years pass, the child learns the unspoken rules of the world. They understand which parts of themselves are welcome and which are better left hidden. The loud, curious child may become quiet and compliant. The imaginative dreamer might trade their creativity for practicality. Bit by bit, we trade authenticity for acceptance, sculpting a version of ourselves that feels safer in the eyes of others. This is where we develop our persona, the mask we wear to navigate society. It is not inherently bad. In fact, the persona is a necessary tool. It allows us to adapt, to interact, and to fulfill our roles in different social settings. It helps us blend in when needed and present ourselves in ways that are socially appropriate. But like any tool, its value depends on how we use it. The danger lies in over-identifying with this mask. Jung warned that when we become too attached to our persona, we risk losing sight of who we truly are. We begin to believe that the mask is the face, that the role is the person. Life becomes a series of performances, each tailored to meet expectations, to gain approval, and to avoid the sting of rejection. We live for the applause of others, mistaking it for fulfillment, all while our true selves remain buried beneath layers of pretense. But deep within us, beyond the mask, there is another force at play, one that refuses to be silenced. It is the quiet, persistent whisper of authenticity, the raw and unfiltered self that longs to break free from the prison of conditioning. No matter how much we try to conform, this part of us never truly goes away. It waits patiently, sometimes showing up in fleeting moments of honesty, or surfacing as a vague sense of dissatisfaction, a reminder that there is more to us than the roles we play. Have you ever felt an intense, almost irrational irritation towards someone? Perhaps it was a coworker whose arrogance got under your skin, or a friend whose neediness made you want to pull away. Maybe it was a stranger whose mere presence sparked an unsettling discomfort. While it's easy to dismiss these reactions as mere personality clashes or bad vibes, Carl Jung would argue otherwise. He believed that these reactions are rarely random. They are often the telltale signs of your shadow at work. The shadow, as Jung described it, consists of all the parts of ourselves that we have rejected or suppressed. It is a vast reservoir of everything we deem unacceptable, not only the negative traits like our fears, insecurities, and desires, but also our hidden strengths and untapped potential. It is where our darker impulses reside, alongside the unlived aspects of our personality. Essentially, it is everything we refuse to see about ourselves, but that continues to influence us from the depths of the unconscious. From an early age, society teaches us what is acceptable and what is not. We are praised for traits like kindness, patience, and discipline, while anger, envy, or neediness are met with disapproval. In response, we push these undesirable traits into the shadows, burying them under layers of learned behavior. However, the shadow doesn't disappear simply because we ignore it. Like a dormant volcano, it remains active beneath the surface, finding subtle and often destructive ways to express itself. This hidden self influences our behavior in ways we might not recognize. For example, someone who suppresses their anger might not lash out directly, but could find themselves perpetually surrounded by aggressive personalities, perhaps even unconsciously provoking them. Another who hides their vulnerability may attract overly emotional people, experiencing discomfort yet also a strange pull toward them. We project our shadow onto the world, seeing in others what we refuse to acknowledge in ourselves. The traits that trigger us most in others often hold a mirror to our own unexamined depths. But here's the transformative insight. The shadow is not an enemy. It is not something to be eradicated, but rather something to be understood. Beneath its unsettling exterior lies a doorway to profound self-discovery. When we resist our shadow, it controls us from the shadows. When we confront it, we take back our power. Jung believed that true growth comes from integrating the shadow. By bravely facing these hidden aspects of ourselves, understanding where they come from, and reclaiming them as integral parts of our wholeness. This process, known as shadow work, is not easy. It requires honesty, self-compassion, and a willingness to explore the uncomfortable. But the reward is profound. Only through this integration can we break free from unconscious control, transform our projections, and step fully into our true power. It is through embracing the shadow that we move closer to becoming who we were always meant to be. Most people move through life anchored to their external identity, the labels and roles that define them on the surface. They introduce themselves by their name, speak of their career, describe their relationships, and recount their experiences. These markers help us navigate social interactions and provide a sense of stability, but they barely scratch the surface of who we truly are. Carl Jung argued that the self is far deeper than this curated persona. Beneath the veneer of everyday identity lies the psyche, a vast inner landscape filled with memories, instincts, and archetypal energies. It is a place where personal experiences intertwine with the collective unconscious, where ancient symbols and inherited patterns of behavior influence us in ways we often do not realize. This inner world is rich, complex, and often mysterious, housing parts of ourselves that modern life rarely invites us to explore. Have you ever felt an unexplainable longing for something more? A quiet pull towards something greater, even when everything in your external life seems fine? This feeling is not merely dissatisfaction with your circumstances. It is the call of your unconscious self. It is a whisper from the depths of your being, urging you to look beyond the surface and connect with the parts of you that are waiting to be realized. These parts may include hidden talents, unexplored passions, or even unhealed wounds that need your attention. But the journey inward is not easy. It requires courage, as it often means confronting uncomfortable truths, questioning deeply held beliefs, and shedding false identities that once felt like safety nets. To walk this path is to unmask yourself, to look in the mirror without filters, and to accept both the light and shadow within. This is why many avoid it. Instead of diving into the depths, they skim the surface, finding solace in distractions, work, relationships, social media, or the never-ending pursuit of material success. These distractions provide temporary relief, but they are only band-aids on a much deeper wound. No amount of external validation can permanently silence the call of the deeper self. When ignored, this inner voice does not simply fade away. It finds other ways to be heard. It manifests as anxiety, as if a part of you knows you are living out of alignment. It appears in self-sabotage, as if the unconscious mind is pulling the brakes on a life that feels inauthentic, and it reveals itself in a gnawing sense of meaninglessness, even when, by all outward measures, life seems complete. The question is, will you listen? Will you take the risk of peeling back the layers and exploring the uncharted territories of your inner world? It is a choice that few make, but those who do often find that the greatest journey is not out into the world, but deep into the self. And on the other side of that journey lies not only a truer sense of who you are, but also a life lived with greater purpose, depth, and freedom. Carl Jung referred to the profound journey of self-discovery as individuation, a lifelong process of integrating all aspects of ourselves, both light and dark, into a unified and authentic whole. Unlike the self-help narratives that often focus on reinventing oneself or constructing a new identity, individuation is not about becoming someone new. Instead, it is about peeling back the layers of conditioning to uncover who you have always been beneath the roles, masks, and expectations imposed upon you. Individuation is not a linear path, but a spiral of deepening self-awareness. It involves diving into the unconscious, confronting what you find, and emerging with a clearer understanding of your true self. This journey demands honesty, courage, and a willingness to venture into uncomfortable territory. Yet, those who dare to undertake it often find that it leads to a richer, more meaningful life. The process begins with the difficult but necessary task of facing the shadow, the hidden parts of ourselves that we have long suppressed. These may include emotions like anger, envy, and fear, as well as vulnerabilities and desires that contradict the image we present to the world. Instead of allowing these traits to control us from the shadows, individuation requires us to bring them into the light. By understanding where they come from and accepting them as part of our human experience, we can transform them into sources of strength and wisdom. However, facing the shadow is only the first step. Individuation also involves breaking free from the persona, the mask we wear to navigate society. We must begin to question the roles we play and the identities we cling to, asking ourselves whether they genuinely reflect who we are or if they merely serve to meet external expectations. This process can be unsettling, as it often means letting go of familiar identities, even if it disrupts relationships or alters how others perceive us. But in doing so, we reclaim our autonomy and move closer to living authentically. Another crucial aspect of this journey is learning to listen to the unconscious. Jung believed that our unconscious mind constantly communicates with us through dreams, instincts, and emotions. Dreams, in particular, are like letters from the unconscious, filled with symbols and hidden messages that, when interpreted, can guide us toward deeper self-awareness. By paying attention to these subtle cues, we open a channel to our inner world, allowing us to uncover truths about ourselves that the conscious mind often overlooks. Through all of this, individuation challenges us to embrace our complexity. It asks us to accept that we are multifaceted beings, both strong and weak, rational and irrational, logical and emotional. Rather than striving for an idealized version of ourselves, we learn to hold space for our contradictions and to find peace in our imperfect humanity. Those who commit to this journey often discover that their fears gradually lose their power. They find themselves making decisions with greater clarity, guided by an inner compass rather than by the shifting demands of the outside world. Their sense of fulfillment deepens as they align more closely with their true desires and values. Instead of life feeling like a series of roles to play or boxes to check, it transforms into a path of genuine expression and purpose. However, even for those who make it this far, there remains one final and formidable hurdle: the greatest illusion of all. Many of us move through life with the quiet, almost unquestioned belief that our identity is fixed. We see ourselves as a collection of past experiences, memories, and stories, woven together to form a coherent narrative of who we are. We cling to labels, our name, our profession, our relationships, and allow them to define us. But Carl Jung saw through this comforting illusion. To Jung, the self is not a static construct, but a dynamic, ever-evolving presence. It is not bound by the narrow confines of the ego, which is merely a tool for navigating the external world. The ego, while necessary for daily functioning, is not the totality of who we are. It is a gatekeeper, offering us a sense of identity and continuity, but it also acts as a barrier, keeping us from exploring the deeper realms of our psyche. The problem arises when we over-identify with the ego. When we mistake the mask for the face, we become trapped in a cycle of repetition, repeating old patterns, reacting to life through the lens of past wounds, and interpreting new experiences in the shadow of old narratives. We begin to believe that our thoughts are who we are, that our past defines our future, and that safety lies in the familiar. True freedom, according to Jung, comes when we loosen the grip of the ego. It is found in the willingness to step beyond the well-worn paths of identity and venture into the unknown. Growth lies beyond certainty, in that vast and often uncomfortable space where we surrender control and embrace the mystery of existence. It is here in the uncharted territories of the psyche that transformation occurs. Jung believed that the key to this transformation is transcendence, a state where the rigid boundaries of the ego dissolve, allowing us to experience life as part of a vast, interconnected whole. In this state, the illusion of separateness fades, and we begin to see ourselves not as isolated beings, but as threads in a greater tapestry. This shift in perception is not merely intellectual, but deeply experiential. It brings a profound sense of belonging and a wisdom that cannot be grasped by the rational mind alone. When we transcend the ego, we open ourselves to life in its fullness. We become more receptive, more creative, and more compassionate. Our decisions are no longer driven by fear or a need to protect the fragile identity of the ego, but by an intuitive sense of alignment with something greater. Instead of reacting to life, we learn to respond with presence, with curiosity, and with a quiet confidence that whatever arises, we have the inner resources to meet it. This is the final hurdle in the process of individuation, the challenge to go beyond the self we think we are and to embrace the self we are becoming. It is the ultimate act of courage and the doorway to a life lived not from the head, but from the heart. So how do you start this profound journey of individuation? How do you move from living a life of surface-level identity to one of deep, authentic self-awareness? The first step is to observe your persona, the mask you wear to navigate the world. Pay close attention to the roles you play in different settings. Notice how you present yourself at work versus with friends or family. Are these expressions of your true self, or are they crafted to meet the expectations of others? Do you act out of fear? Fear of judgment, rejection, or failure? This kind of self-inquiry can be uncomfortable, but it is essential. The more honest you are with yourself, the more clearly you will see where your persona ends and where your authentic self begins. Equally important is the exploration of your shadow. Instead of dismissing or avoiding what triggers you, lean into those reactions. When someone irritates you, when a situation makes you disproportionately angry or uncomfortable, ask yourself, why? What unhealed part of you is being touched? Often, the traits we dislike in others are reflections of what we deny in ourselves. By examining these projections, you can reclaim the rejected parts of your personality and begin to integrate them into your conscious awareness. Listening to your dreams is another powerful practice. Jung believed that dreams are not random, but rather direct messages from the unconscious. They offer symbols and stories that, when interpreted, can guide you toward deeper self-understanding. Keep a dream journal by your bedside. Write down whatever fragments you remember each morning, and look for recurring symbols and patterns. Over time, you may notice themes emerging, insights into your fears, desires, and the parts of yourself that long to be acknowledged. In a world filled with noise and distraction, Embracing solitude is crucial. Silence is not emptiness. It is a space where the truth surfaces. When you spend time alone, truly alone, without the constant pull of social media, work, or other distractions, you give yourself the opportunity to reconnect with your deeper self. In these quiet moments, you may find clarity, inspiration, and a sense of peace that only comes when you step away from the external world and turn inward. Finally, let go of a fixed identity. Life is not a script with rigid roles and predictable outcomes. Instead of clinging to labels, whether they are about your personality, your profession, or your past, allow yourself to evolve and transform. Embrace the idea that you are not a finished product, but a work in progress. The beauty of individuation lies in its fluidity, in the freedom to grow, change, and discover new facets of yourself at every stage of life. By taking these steps, you initiate a journey that is not only transformative, but also deeply fulfilling. You begin to peel away the layers of false identity, revealing the truth of who you are and who you are meant to become. Most people will never embark on this journey. They will live their entire lives wearing a mask, suppressing their truth, and wondering why an intangible emptiness lingers beneath the surface. They will move from one distraction to the next, searching for fulfillment in external achievements, fleeting pleasures, or the approval of others, never realizing that what they truly seek lies within. But you have a choice. You can continue living as a fragment of yourself, bound by illusions, repeating the same patterns, and mistaking comfort for happiness. You can remain within the confines of the persona, safe but stagnant, slowly disconnecting from the vibrant, authentic self that longs to emerge. Or you can choose a different path. You can step into your fullness, embracing every part of who you are, the light and the dark, the strength and the vulnerability. You can dare to look inwards, to confront the shadows, and to listen to the quiet wisdom of your unconscious. This is not a path for the faint of heart. It demands courage, honesty, and a willingness to face the unknown. It requires you to shed the layers of false identity and to walk through the discomfort of unlearning who you thought you had to be. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." These words carry a powerful truth. When you remain unaware of your inner world, you become a puppet to forces you cannot see. Your fears, your unresolved wounds, and your suppressed desires pull the strings, shaping your choices and dictating your destiny. But when you bring light to these hidden realms, you reclaim your power. You shift from being a passive participant in your own life to becoming its conscious creator. The path to finding yourself is not a journey with a clear map or a guaranteed destination. It is more like walking through a dense forest, where every step requires trust in yourself and in the process. You will face moments of doubt, times when you question whether it is worth it, whether the comfort of the familiar might be better than the freedom of the unknown. But if you persist, if you keep moving forward despite the uncertainty, you will reach a place of profound understanding. And when you do, you will realize something life-changing. You were never truly lost. Your true self was always there, patiently waiting beneath the layers of conditioning, beneath the noise of the world, beneath the fears that held you back. All along, it was not about finding something new, but remembering what had always been. Life doesn't begin when you are born. Life begins when you find yourself.